Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, who's next at finance? Also, the V-Team takes a look at BCA stumbles. And is political porn distracting the voters from the real issue?
The downstate Catholic Democratic regulars are having a tough time committing themselves to a re-election campaign.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, look at what we got here.
Ah, now that, for some folks, is a real distraction. All this and much, much more coming up next on The V. Welcome to The Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and as always, I'm joined by the V-Team. Welcome all.
How's everybody?
Hey. Good. How are you?
Good.
Studio's coming along, Jack. You get a little better every day.
Yeah.
A little wrinkle here and there.
We don't have a lot of burning issues this week.
No burning issues this week.
Well, there is one particular one. For 3 weeks, I have been trying to get a letter from the Secretary of State's office in which, in 2015, September 21st, 2015, John Merrill, Secretary of State, wrote a letter to the Secretary of State in Mississippi in which he told the Mississippi Secretary of State that these PACs that wanted to come into Alabama and spend money in campaigns had to follow our laws. And Susan, John Merrill got wind that these campaigns were coming in here, and what they wanted to do was not disclose their donors. Mm-hmm. They wanted to circumvent our laws. Mm-hmm. What did John Merrill tell them?
Can't do it. They were trying to do two things. The first thing they were trying to do was pretty easy. They were trying to make an Alabama contribution to a Mississippi PAC, and the Mississippi PAC give it back to an Alabama candidate. Well, since Mississippi does not require that you record anything other than contributions given in Mississippi or expenditures donated in Mississippi, that would have flown completely under the radar. But the biggest thing was that the Mississippi PAC can't give to an Alabama PAC or an Alabama candidate without filing an FCPA report, without registering with the state. And here's the interesting part, if I can get my phone to participate, maybe. Here's what the law says on that. It says any committee, club, association, political party, or other group of one or more persons, whether in state or out of state, which receives or anticipates receiving contributions and makes or anticipates making expenditures to or on behalf of an Alabama state or local elected official. Key word there is any, and also in state or out of state.
Well, and Jack, one of the things that's happened, and I don't want to make this totally about Steve Marshall, but a Republican nominee, Steve Marshall, Attorney General, he received $735,000 from an out-of-state PAC. Now, they're saying it's a federal PAC. But in here, John Merrill writes to Mississippi and says, look, you can give some money, but you got to disclose your donors, and you've got to register in Alabama. Well, the federal PAC, they're claiming they have a federal exception, but the statute shows no federal exception. And John Merrill makes it clear here that Mississippi couldn't do it.
Yeah, in other words, any PAC that operates outside of the state of Alabama who contributes to an Alabama candidate for public office must file in Alabama in accordance with the Fair Campaign Practices Act, which includes where their money came from and who they spent their money on. And people haven't been doing that.
Right. It took,
particularly not the Republican Attorney General's Association.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. And it took us 3 weeks to find this letter. Mm-hmm. And you know what, Charlie? I believe this is no longer whether it's legal or not legal, it's politics.
This is complete politics. The entire situation is absolutely egregious. It could have completely changed the outcome of the hearing and change Troy's outcome. So that's what really upsets me about the whole situation. It's just the fact that they sat on that long, and
it wasn't subpoenaed. They didn't.
It wasn't, but
so people didn't know this.
Knowing that that's out there and nothing was done about it.
Well, if I were Troy King, I would be highly irritated that this letter was not introduced into evidence to Judge Anderson during that hearing.
I was calling about this letter while this was going on, and I got stonewalled. I got sidetracked. I got everything. And I'm not saying this was on purpose.
No.
But I'm saying this letter to me makes it very clear that John Merrill's office has in the past said you cannot do what Raga did, and do not sell me this phony baloney horse malarkey that because it's a federal PAC.
If it's a law, if it's a law, then it has to stand in a law. Both in this situation and the Steve Marshall situation, you cannot change the law just because you like your buddy.
This
it says
loophole didn't
any.
work.
Well, Jack,
and it's a statute.
Jack, this was adjudicated. The PAC-to-PAC transfers was adjudicated by the 11th Circuit. They upheld this law. The 11th Circuit upheld the law on any. So it's pretty darn clear. But you know what, Charlie? This goes back to the second point we've been talking about this week. Is what's happened is people get sidelined. They get sidelined by what I call political porn. And that's where you get the mistress out there. You get the shenanigans over here that don't matter. But then you've got these legal issues and these ethical issues, and we forget all about them because we're watching this political porn.
Exactly. I mean, you expect your elected officials to not cheat their way into office. You expect them to not use their office for political gain and to run their office ethically correct, but you can't really do that because so many people, and I'm not saying mainly Republicans, but it's mainly Republicans who've been indicted in the past and that we've had issues like this with, but that all just goes out the window with, like you said, this political porn, which unlike real porn, as I'm sure a lot of us know, only one person gets satisfied, and the taxpayer seems to be the one getting screwed in every situation.
Well, the voters more than the taxpayers.
Voters more than the taxpayers, yes. But
the whole thing is, when Bob Riley called a special session in December of 2010, come up with sweeping reform in our ethics laws. Ever since then, ever since Mike Hubbard was indicted on 23 counts, have the Republicans wigged out, and they're all so afraid, so they're wanting to go change the law to benefit themselves. You can call it whatever you want to, but it is their attempt to make money off of serving in office. Some of them are lucky they're not in jail.
I take issue with one of your words. You said they want to change it. No, with this new committee, they want to rewrite them.
Well,
they want to start over and just undo
gut 'em. They want to gut 'em.
They want to gut them.
Absolutely.
They want to gut them, and it's...
Or they want to change them, like in this instance and other instances we pointed out. If it's your buddy, well, we'll just kind of let that slide.
They're trying to make it
BS
easier.
task force that was set up to
yeah.
rewrite it. It's made up of the very people that are violating the law.
And
there are no citizens on there.
And they got around the Open Meetings Act, so we don't have any way of knowing what they're doing.
And the only decent guy on the ethics committee, Stuart Tankersley, his term expired.
Yeah.
He couldn't get out of there faster.
Well, I tell you what, that's, and they try to keep us distracted by the D.C. political porn so that we won't see that we're the ones getting screwed, as Charlie said, on a daily basis. We're going to have to leave it right there. You're watching the V, the voice of Alabama politics. We're all fired up. Hope you are too.
You'll never guess what 400,000 people in the U.S. were using when they crashed their cars last year. No, not this. This. Distracted driving will kill you. Drive safe, Alabama. A message from your Alabama Department of Transportation. 2/3 of drivers who died in car crashes chose to ignore this warning. Seatbelts save lives. Drive safe, Alabama. A message from your Alabama Department of Transportation.
Welcome back to the V, the voice of Alabama politics. Charlie, did you have anything else you wanted to add on that segment?
No, of course. I was just fired up just like everybody else. I was just going to put my 2 cents in, but it's okay. We can move on.
You're going to drag a few people through the mud's what I heard.
It's hard to put 2 cents in when Susan puts 5 cents.
I'm older, I've got more insurance.
Or a buck and a huff. You know, Jack, this weekend the BCA had their big gala down in Point Clear, and you know, I like to call it an orgy of greed and corruption, you know, by the seaside.
I don't call BCA corrupt. I call them, you know,
Well,
out of touch.
Out of touch. Billy Canary's gone. That's a good thing. Alabama Power, Blue Cross Blue Shield, some of the big Protective Life, some of these other big companies, Region Bank, have been trying to sit down and work out how they might come back into the fold. Senator Dale Marsh was instrumental in putting that together, but it's really stalled out right now.
Yeah, apparently it doesn't look like some of the major members of that association are coming back in. There's a rumor there's heartburn over the Porch Creeks having such influence over the Business Council. They're, as I've said on this show at least 10 times, they were the preeminent business association in Alabama. And when you smug state officials, statewide public officials are always invited to the BCA conference. Now, Jim Ziegler, he's a little out there, a little kooky, a little quirky, loves to go to court. They didn't invite him. That's just, you know, that's very elementary.
Yeah. Well, there's several senators that this is the first year that they've been invited, Susan, that they went, nah, don't think so.
Well, they've uninvited them or not invited them for so many years, you know, when I can see why, you know, because when they were big and they were powerful and all this, they snubbed these legislators, and now when they're weak, they want them to come back. I don't think so.
I mean, Charlie, does it really even make any sense for Alabama Power and some of these guys to come back on board?
I don't think so. I mean, some people's opinions may be different than mine, but I still, after Canary, I think he really drove it to the ground, and I still look at it like a sinking ship, so I think they'd be doing right by themselves to just call it quits and move on.
Well, there's a move to try to re-bring them back together, but I just
That's what
don't.
they need is a rebranding and, you know, to maybe have a new staff over there or whatever. And
Whoever comes in, they've got to
clean house.
It's got to.
Yeah.
But it's none of my business. I'm not a member. But,
Well, it's in the public interest, Jack.
but as a Republican, which is the campaign, the party that has really most benefited from the existence of the BCA, because that's why they give their lion's share of money. I'm a little offended at the direction they've gone in. And you know, Billy never learned keep your friends close and your enemies closer. He never learned that.
And as business owners, Bill and I are interested in the health of the business community in the state of Alabama. Even though we're not members, it's still an interest of ours.
They
we were kind of uninvited from the very
We were
beginning.
uninvited like 8 years ago.
I don't think we were ever invited.
No, but I'm just saying we have an interest in the health of the
I
business
remember
community.
going to a BCA breakfast and Billy Canary looking at me like, is that something on the bottom of my shoe that just walked in? You know, I really would have.
I will say that when I was helping Paul Sanford in a special election in 2009, Billy Canary really came through for Paul that last week of the campaign when we were desperate for money, and Paul won. And I'll always remember that, but it was like pulling eye teeth, but it happened. And he's done great things over the years, but last few years since the Hubbard thing, I think Billy kind of drifted.
Yeah, he tanked. Anyway, I want to move on to another, I want to get back to this ethics commission, always one of your favorite subjects, Jack.
The no ethics.
Over the last week or so, the ethics commission ruled, Susan, that Representative Mark Tuggle could become the chief of staff to Mac McCutcheon. Now, the problem here is there's a revolving door statute that says lawmakers can't leave the legislature and then come back in and get a job that lobbies the legislature. Now, they said with Mark Tuggle, well, yeah, he's leaving, but he's coming back into government service, so it doesn't count.
Once again, bending the rules. We'll bend them here. You know what? They didn't bend them years ago for Trish Todd. They didn't bend them for other people, but now they're bending them for this. And you have to understand, okay, if he was just going to become a building supervisor, that's one thing. But as the chief of staff of the speaker, it is part of the job requirement that you lobby legislators. That's just right there on the duties list. And the law strictly says you can't do that.
Well, I'm not defending them because you know how I feel about the Ethics Commission. But what they're probably hanging their hat on is that Mark Tuggle is moving from a public employee job to another public employee job. He's not in the private sector, but part of his job description is to
lobby.
You know,
and they say that he can meet with lobbyists, he can hang out with lobbyists, he can do all that. And I think the argument that I have here is he was the job he had, he was elected to. Mac McCutcheon, or the Speaker's office, according to the State Personnel Board, he is an employer. And therefore, now Mark Tuggle, who's a great guy as far as I hear, is going to work as an employee where part of his job is to lobby. It's just a broad, Charlie, I mean, they make these exceptions.
That's really all I can say about it. I feel like I say that every week I'm on the show. I'm just so tired of the exceptions and the loopholes that have just constantly bombarded like this. I don't even know what to say about it anymore. I really don't.
And my understanding is Tuggle
never ending.
Tuggle hasn't even resigned his position yet as legislator.
Right. Well, he won't start, and I don't think he'll start until November.
Well, you said something a minute ago about they didn't bend the rules for Trish Todd, but
they did, but they came back and unbent them later.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, and they want to just kind of take it and make it work however they want.
Well, until they got caught.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Then they, we got to change that.
Yeah. I mean, the code makes no distinction between public employee and a private employee. I mean, there's no distinction in the code. So, I mean, that's that's the deal with me. It's like we only got about 40 seconds left. Jack, Clinton Carter, who has been one of the best directors of finance the state's probably had in many, many years, Clinton, has left to go to work for the University of North Carolina Systems. He's going to be a vice president up there in the college system up there. What a great place to go.
One of the most beautiful places in the country.
It's going to be hard to replace him. He got along with the legislature.
Yeah, I know. I reached out to him and wished him well. Margaret Spellings, who's the president, was a co-worker of mine at the Republican Party of Texas in 1984, became Secretary of Education under Bush.
Yeah.
And I know he'll love working with Margaret.
Yeah.
And he's a good guy.
He's one of the best. We're going to dearly miss him.
We're really going to, the state of Alabama.
He helped us get in the studio, by the way.
Yes,
well, some people might hold that against him. But we're going to leave it right there. You're watching the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back with more news and analysis. What a bug.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah, sure.
You'll never guess what 400,000 people in the U.S. were using when they crashed their cars last year. No, not this. This. Distracted driving will kill you. Drive safe, Alabama. A message from your Alabama Department of Transportation.
The Energy Institute of Alabama promotes reliable, affordable, and clean energy to help grow our economy, create high-paying jobs, and build public support for Alabama's energy industry. Access to clean, affordable energy continues to be an issue of vital importance in the halls of government and around the kitchen tables across our nation. The Energy Institute of Alabama is the best source of energy industry information and how it affects households across the state, from convenient energy production to alternative fuels to solar power and beyond.
Two-thirds of drivers who died in car crashes chose to ignore this warning. Seatbelts save lives. Drive safe, Alabama. A message from your Alabama Department of Transportation.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. I want to go back to the finance director position. You know, word around the State House is that Governor Kay Ivey, or around the Capitol, Governor Kay Ivey would like to have young Boozer come in and take over. He has a financial background, and right now he's the state treasurer. He and Kay are in Rotary together, and that means something to Governor Ivey.
Yeah, there'll be two of them in one office, but I mean, Young has a pretty good reputation. He was an 8-year treasurer with no scandal, which, you know, is more than you can say for a lot of elected officials.
Well, I know that riding around on the Segway was a little scandalous.
Well, that was very scary. But Young is a good guy, and he's a very credible and competent public servant.
But Susan, and I think we all could agree on that. The only problem with young Boozer, I think you have, there is this nagging sense that Governor Kay Ivey does want to go after Dr. David Bronner, the head of RSA. You know, Republicans have wanted to get control of that money for a long time. There are people who have said that young Boozer would be a great fit over there at RSA. I think you take on Dr. David Bronner, you lose.
Dr. David Bronner is a lion, and I mean, he's doing a good job over there, let's face it. But every Republican governor since Riley has wanted to get their hands on that money. It's been a long-going battle, and David Bronner's still sitting over there and still working with that fund, so I don't see where they're actually going to be able to do that.
You know, Charlie, we wrote a couple articles just quoting Governor Kay Ivey and about these things about the RSA complaints she had against RSA. There's a website called Save Our RSA Retirement. It's a Facebook page. Mm-hmm. There are 72,000 members of that Facebook page. But, you know, this is one of those times where the governor's probably going to be faced with a compromise. She may not be able to get what she wants. You know, that's just one of the things that I think we're seeing here possibly play out.
Possibly, definitely.
Well, what does Young's tenure as finance director, is he not a Bronner fan? Or do we know?
You know, I don't know that there's any problem there. I'm just saying there have been people that have been pushing him for RSA.
Because the treasurer has a vote, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And see, now, John McMillan, what happened is the finance director has a vote, and the treasurer will have a vote. Mm-hmm. John McMillan and young Boozer are good friends, so there's two will have a vote. But, you know, from what I hear, John McMillan, great guy, has no issue with David Bronner. So this all may be just inside Montgomery politics.
Well, you want to have a bunch of folks hollering, you mess with David Bronner.
Yeah.
Because there are people in this state who believe he is the guru of finance and the only thing that is protecting their retirement. So
anytime I've ever talked to him,
yeah.
And anytime I've ever talked to him about finance, my brain hurts after I get done.
Well, the thing is he has protected. Mm-hmm. He's protected this money. If these guys, Hubbard and them, have gotten their hands on this money, Charlie, there wouldn't be a dime left.
Well, oh gosh, no.
Well, let me ask this question: would you run into the same problem that Tuggle would if she appointed a cabinet member to be finance director who lobbies the legislature?
I
think he'll get the green light.
I think they've already opened that door.
Yeah,
you know, I mean,
I think
I'm just asking.
Yeah, I think it's possible. I also think that does she want him to surrender his position now and let McMillan move up early? I mean, there's a lot of juggling.
McMillan doesn't have an opponent, so he is the.
I don't like that idea. I like people finishing out.
Yeah, but I mean, look,
I agree. I'm just saying it's possible.
He would be a good choice. I hope there's no issue there with Dr. Bronner. That's just what we're hearing. Could be true, could not be true. One of the things we do know is absolutely true, Charlie, is that Governor Kay Ivey, excuse me, the NRA and everybody and their brother is trying to put pressure on Democrat Doug Jones to vote for Republican nominee for the Supreme Court, Brett Kavanaugh.
That's why I don't understand. I mean, I did understand, me and Jack talked the other day that they do need Democratic votes, but what I want to get is why put so much pressure on Doug Jones when what's in it for him? That's what I don't get why.
But what's in it for him to oppose Kavanaugh if this guy is eminently qualified? Obama got through 2 or 3 appointments to the Supreme Court. I mean, this Kavanaugh guy seems to be pretty dadgum qualified.
Well, and I think to Charlie's question though, what is in it for Doug Jones? Absolutely, if he goes for Kavanaugh, he's not going to pick up any Republican votes in Alabama, right, Jack? I mean, that's
probably
that's not going to help him. So if he goes against Kavanaugh, he may pick up some more money from out-of-state liberal donors. So, I mean, I don't see any upside for it. And again, I'm Jack. Kavanaugh seems like a very reasonable person, despite what they say about Roe v. Wade and all that. I think that's just hype. I don't think that's.
But I also think Ivy should be investing her time in other things other than trying to pressure Doug Jones. I think she has a lot more on her plate than worrying about that.
Yeah, well, the governor doesn't have anything. He shouldn't have any say in this. Shut up.
She's trying to curry favor with Trump, obviously, but and I don't blame her. But the governor calling on Kavanaugh is not going to make. Calling on Doug to
Jones.
confirm
I mean,
Kavanaugh.
he could just, abstain and nothing would change.
Yeah. Well, they're going to have Democrats because they do not have enough Republicans to get it passed. One interesting thing that happened this week I want to get to right before we close is...
Could I make one more point?
Yeah, go ahead.
Democrat Doug Jones voting for Brett Kavanaugh is not going to lose any Democrat votes. Democrats are not going to vote for his opponent over him, even if he votes to affirm
You mean
Kavanaugh.
all 397 of them?
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like, Charlie, every day we learn of another person that's going to just run against Doug Jones. I mean,
We do every day.
And none of them are under 65 years old.
Well, and that's
which is crazy to me.
That's my problem.
Well, and that's the thing. We're seeing more and more, and then, like Charlie says, is a problem. Jack, the World War II generation, the greatest generation, they didn't have any problem electing young politicians, if you think about it. And then they steadily got older. They're steadily getting older now. You had Bill Clinton was young, George Walker Bush was fairly young, but now it's like, we haven't had a governor that's been a young person in years. We haven't.
Decades.
Yeah,
Decades.
That's true.
We just don't. But George Wallace, when he was governor, he was actually a young man.
Pretty young, yeah.
And I think with so many more young people becoming involved in politics and movements and speaking out the way they have been, it'd be nice for them to have a governor they can identify with on a more personal level.
Problem is those folks don't go vote.
Yeah,
maybe they'll start voting more.
Hopefully they will.
Well, and what it is senior citizens are reliable voters because, one, they've had to pay off the mortgage, they've had to pay off everything, and they know what matters. We're going to have to leave it right there. You've been watching The V, the voice of Alabama politics. You watch us, because we watch them.